10 most terrifying and disturbing serial killers. For this list, we'll recount the chilling stories of notorious serial killers whose horrifying acts continue to haunt history.
He was meticulous, he was incredibly bright, and he was incredibly lethal.
He does not consciously know right from wrong, and he does not feel guilty or remorseful for what he does.
Who's the scariest serial killer you know of? Comment their name below. 10. Robert Hansen. Robert Hansen, a troubled teenager with a turbulent home life, turned to hunting as a way to escape. But what started as a pastime turned into something far more sinister. By adulthood, Hansen's prey evolved from animals to human beings. Alaska's dense, remote wilderness became the perfect setting for his gruesome crimes. Hansen abducted women, primarily sex workers, and subjected them to horrifying abuse. Afterward, he'd transport them into the wilderness, where he would hunt them like animals, taking pleasure in their suffering. Dubbed the Butcher Baker by the media, Hansen's horrific spree ended in 1983 when one of his victims, 17-year-old Cindy Paulson, managed to escape while he was loading his plane. She alerted authorities, leading to his arrest. Hansen later confessed to killing at least 17 women, though authorities believed the actual number could be higher. Sentenced to 461 years in prison, Hansen died in 2014 after serving 31 years. Even after his arrest, his confessions and the map he provided, marked with X's denoting burial sites, underscored the true scale of his horrifying crimes. 9. Israel Keyes. What's more terrifying than a killer with no clear pattern or motive? How about one who was trained by the US Army? Israel Keyes' unpredictable methods and strategic planning made him a nightmare for law enforcement. Keyes operated across the country, setting up kill kits containing weapons and tools in remote locations, ready for use whenever he decided to strike. His victims ranged in age, gender, and background, further complicating efforts to connect his crimes. In 2012, Keyes kidnapped and murdered 18-year-old Samantha Koenig in Alaska. He demanded a ransom while using her ATM card to withdraw money, leading to his capture. After his arrest, Keyes confessed to several other murders, but his calm, methodical descriptions of his crimes sent chills down investigators' spines. Before he could face trial, Keyes took his own life, leaving authorities with unanswered questions about the full extent of his crimes. 8. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy's outward persona as a community man who dressed as Pogo the Clown for children's parties hid his horrifying double life. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy lured young men and boys to his Chicago home, where he tortured and killed them. His crimes were finally uncovered when police, investigating the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest, found human remains in the crawl space beneath Gacy's house. Gacy's confession revealed the true horror. He had murdered at least 33 victims. The chilling discovery of bodies stacked beneath his home shocked the nation. Gacy was convicted in 1980 and sentenced to death. 14 years later, in 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. The public's fascination with his case only grew over time, solidifying Gacy as one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. 7. Marcel Petiot. Under the guise of resistance work during Nazi-occupied France, Marcel Petiot exploited desperate individuals trying to escape persecution. Operating under the alias Dr. Eugene, he promised safe passage out of Paris, but instead lured victims to their deaths. Petiot injected his victims with cyanide under the pretense of vaccination and then stole their valuables, disposing of their bodies in gruesome ways. When authorities discovered 23 remains at his property, Petiot claimed his actions were part of the resistance, though no evidence supported his story. Executed by guillotine in 1946, Petiot is believed to have killed around 60 people. His chilling last words were, "Gentlemen, I ask you not to look. This will not be very pretty." 6. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer's name is synonymous with horror. From 1978 to 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys, subjecting his victims to unspeakable acts both before and after their deaths. Dahmer lured his victims with promises of money, alcohol, or companionship, only to trap them in his Milwaukee apartment. His killing spree ended when one intended victim, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape and lead police back to Dahmer's apartment, where they discovered evidence of his grisly crimes. Dahmer's trial shocked the world as details of his depravity came to light. Convicted of 15 murders, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, in 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate, marking the end of a chilling chapter in true crime history. 5. David Parker Ray. Known as the Toy Box Killer, David Parker Ray transformed a soundproof trailer into a torture chamber filled with nightmarish devices. Ray abducted women, often with the help of accomplices like his girlfriend Cynthia Hendy, and held them captive for extended periods. His crimes came to light in 1999 when one victim escaped after 3 days of captivity and alerted authorities. While Ray claimed to have killed as many as 60 women, no bodies were ever recovered, leaving the true scale of his crimes uncertain. Convicted on multiple charges, Ray was sentenced to 224 years in prison. He died of a heart attack in 2002, taking many of his secrets with him. 4. Fred and Rosemary West. Fred and Rosemary West's partnership in crime resulted in some of the most depraved acts imaginable. Together, they assaulted, tortured, and killed at least 12 victims, including their own daughter, Heather West. Many of their victims were buried at their home in Gloucester, England, earning it the grim nickname, the House of Horrors. The West crimes were uncovered in 1994 when police investigated Heather's disappearance. Fred took his life while in custody, leaving Rosemary to face justice alone. She was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, where she remains today. 3. Albert Fish. Nicknamed the Grey Man and the Boogeyman, Albert Fish was a monster hiding in plain sight. Active in the 1920s and 1930s, Fish preyed on children and committed unspeakable acts. In one horrifying instance, he wrote a letter to the mother of a victim, describing the gruesome details of her child's murder. Arrested in 1934, Fish was sentenced to death and executed in 1936. 2. Harold Shipman. Known as Dr. Death, Harold Shipman used his position as a trusted physician to kill his patients. Active in England from the 1970s to the 1990s, Shipman's crimes came to light in 1998 when suspicions arose about his involvement in a patient's sudden death. Investigators discovered forged documents and an alarming number of deaths under his care, many due to overdoses of diamorphine. Shipman was convicted of 15 murders in 1999, though he's believed to have killed over 250 people. Sentenced to life in prison, Shipman took his own life in 2004. 1. Pedro Lopez. Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes, is one of history's most prolific killers. Operating across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru in the 1970s and 1980s, Lopez targeted young girls. Arrested in 1980, he confessed to over 300 murders and was convicted of 110. Shockingly, Lopez was released from prison in 1998 for good behavior. His current whereabouts are unknown, making him a lingering shadow of fear. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Which of these killers do you find the most horrifying? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Until next time.